Bryant Chambers is joining us. Welcome to the show.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm more than happy to learn the equation because I'd like to know it myself so I can repeat it.
We like that. We like that a lot. What we're trying to do on this show is, we have a lot of young entrepreneurs that listen to the show and entrepreneurs at every step of the way. And what we like to do is bring people on that are having current success and also have a background, a story that they can tell that can be inspiring. Because I think a lot of times the entrepreneur, you get beat down and you think maybe it's just you that is going through something difficult. So could you take us through your journey of what has brought you to here today?
So it goes back to when I was 17. So I'm in college. My father's just signed the paperwork for me to become an ROTC cadet because when you're 17, you can't sign your life away. Your dad has to do it for you. But about I'd say 6 months to a year into college, I knew that I wasn't going to be a good employee. Like I knew the things I was learning. I'm a computer scientist by education, and I knew I wasn't going to work as a programmer or a database engineer. Like having a job wasn't going to work for me. So down the road, I had to start thinking about, okay, I'm going to have to create my own enterprise. And in fact, I had a mentor. One of my first mentors told me, he's like, you're never going to be happy till you run your own ship. So I did the military game, which was awesome. I enjoyed serving with the men and women that I served with. Then I did running a billionaires company for a while, which is what taught me the ropes. And while I was running that business is when I started my media company. And I was working with another media company, old friend and mentor of mine. But the bottom line is I knew that I had to create something that would give me a space to do my thing my way without being at the mercy of, people's standards or political correctness or don't say that, that's, whatever. I knew at a very young age that I'd probably make a terrible employee. So that's pretty much what led me to getting into the media space. I started in entertainment, but then really I had a really good talk with um, a music manager because I was still making music at the time. And she's the one that kind of righted the ship. She's like, bro, you're a leader of leaders. You doing entertainment is cool, but your real life is probably over here helping people and helping develop. So that's where we eventually led to my mission to develop warrior leaders all over the world.
How important has having a mentor been to you, especially when you were young?
Well, it's life. And the importance, it can't be overstated. But what a lot of people don't realize is that having mentorship at a young age, it started with my dad, my parents, but then the other people that came into my life, they help you avoid the pitfalls that they've all been through. So they accelerate your success.
And for someone listening to, like, I think a lot of times people think, how do they find these mentors? Are there mentors that you have found that maybe have been through podcasts or through books or through another platform that maybe you never have met, but somebody that you follow?
Yeah, definitely mentors through books, through videos. I watch interviews, and one of the pro tips I give to people I've coached is watch interviews of your favorite entertainers because they'll always give away their secrets. So I watch a lot of stand-up comedians interviews when they're not necessarily doing stand-up, but they're talking about their story, and they give away all their secrets on how to produce content, how to be successful. So books and videos, if you can't get them in real life. But what I tell, especially the young people, is that old cliche, when the student is ready the master will appear, is very true. It's people that ask me, well, how do I get a mentor? It's like, well, go start doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, and when you've developed yourself enough, you will absolutely run into a person who is capable of helping you. Because every time I've had a significant mentor come into my life, it's because I was working on something that was either in their vein or they thought, hey, this kid has a lot of potential, I'm going to help him do it. Right. So it's not so much because people say, oh, go to networking events, which is cool. You can do that. But it's like, just put your head down and start working and start putting yourself out there. Mentors will find you.
So what's been your message lately? What's the message that you've been trying to bring to to everybody who listens to you? I think I was, found you on TikTok, and I was really impressed by the different messages on there. Seemed like every day it was you're active on there. You're giving a lot of positive messages. Seems like you're really trying to reach that person that just needs a positive voice in their life, really. And can you speak on that? What message you're trying to bring?
Yeah. The main message, I'd say there's really two of them. The first one is think. I tell people all the time, like I have a video on TikTok titled Everything I Say is a Lie. And the point of that video is to help people understand that I have very few opinions and very few beliefs. And I believe that the truth always gets better with further investigation. So it's instead of letting someone do my thinking for me, whether it's news media or propaganda or political figures or religious figures, it's use this brain that God gave you, right? Like you have the capacity to do critical thinking for a reason. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't use it. They let a lot of other industries and machines do their thinking for them. So it's like actually use your brain. Because I tell people all the time, I don't need you to agree with me. If I make a statement, half the time it's not something I believe, it's just something I've observed and something I have a thought on. So, and I say, even with me, don't take anything I say as gospel. Because I'll get people inevitably are like, yo, I disagree with some of the stuff you say. Yeah, me too. Right? Because you should always be challenging your ideas. So you got to use the brain. You got to think. And that's either in reading, or just thinking through hard problems in life. The second piece is I think every problem we face in the world could all be tied back to the root cause of a catastrophic leadership failure. Everything. And that's part of the reason why I want to develop leaders is because in the idea of developing a leader is I'm going to first develop you to lead yourself, to take control of your mind and your destiny, right? And then by going out into the world and doing the thing that you do, you're by nature going to lead other people to do their thing.
And can you talk about the platform? I think maybe some people, when they hear me say TikTok, they think of the dances and everything else and the goofiness that comes along with it. But can you talk about how many views you have on TikTok and maybe the platform? Like, there's definitely the culture in there that has the dances and everything else. But there is, when you start to follow the different hashtags of self-improvement or positive messages, there's a whole nother realm of TikTok for sure. And I think for people who wonder, like, as a business owner or an influencer trying to be on there, I think it's super important because it's a newer platform. So there you can actually gain momentum where you can't gain momentum on maybe Instagram at this point or YouTube or something like that. But can you talk about how you've approached it and how many views you have and why that particular platform?
Sure. I don't know how many views I have exactly because TikTok doesn't, they show it to you in chunks. I can tell you it's in the millions.
Yeah.
There was a point where I was doing about 2 million views a week. That's kind of dwindled a little bit because the platform exploded with a lot of people that showed up all producing content. So it became exponentially more competitive to get attention. But it's in the millions. And I'll say for people that play the normal kind of cliche, oh, I don't want to be on that platform. It's just for kids or it's just silly. It's just dancing. What I tell people is I've been building even before social media, I've been building with my company online communities since 2003, right? I started in the music industry. I actually helped PlayStation for a while and I was building my own at the same time. And then social media comes into the picture. I've never been on a platform ever, not Facebook, not even paid Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, nothing, where one of my huge focuses was I want to make content that's going to help military vets, especially with the transition to civilian life, because especially for combatants, that's a hard transition for a lot of us. And I wanted to take my own struggle and turn that into a positive for other people who I knew were going to be going through it or are going through it. Tried on YouTube, no luck. Tried on Instagram, no luck. Tried on Facebook, even with paid ads, some luck. I came to TikTok and did one video of me and my son singing Cadence, 22,000 views later. And that's for someone that has no followers. That's pretty cool. And then thousands of veterans came out of nowhere. So it's, as a platform for people that think it's all just kids, I'd say the average age of a person watching my content's probably somewhere between 27 and 34. So
Yeah.
do I get the kids? Sure. But I get that there's way more of an adult and a business culture. Like I have had brand deals brought to me just because of TikTok. So if someone's trying to be an influencer or trying to promote a business, I can't give them a better platform than TikTok right now to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's, you listen to, probably the biggest voice that's trying to promote TikTok just because, he's seen all the different ups and downs of social media, of course, Gary Vee, and he
There
talks
you go.
about like, hey, you need to be on TikTok. You need to be
Yeah.
just relentless on how much content you're putting on there. And I think, there's a lot of truth in there for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the videos that I saw that you did that really impressed me, that I thought, you've got your business, you're trying to help people create warriors. For somebody listening to this, I always like to try and give them something maybe they could take away. Can you talk about the video you did, that how to change your life radically in 30 days?
Which one? Because there's probably 20 of those. Which one are you talking about specifically?
So I watched like the whole group of them, like
Okay.
the few hours of them, trying to figure out what who I was bringing on, beyond the TikTok, and
Right.
I think there's a lot of good pointers in there, and I guess if you can just kind of break it down and give everybody like an overall, like is there is there a couple tips in there that you like better than most that you can kind of give somebody something they can walk away with?
Sure. So the whole premise of the 30-day Change Your Life challenge was, my promise to the viewer was, if you sign up for this program and you do everything I'm going to tell you over the next 30 days and you execute on that, your life will be changed. That's the promise. Now, what we find is that most people see significant change after the first video and then huge change after the second video. And the second video is really where I focus my attention when I'm making TikTok content, because it's about understanding the self. So, right, one of my primary philosophies is what Sun Tzu said, that the person that knows themselves and knows their enemy will never have to fear the outcome of 100 battles or 100 engagements. Right? And so if I translate that for the modern world and take it out of the context of warfare, it's the person that knows themselves intimately. So you understand your psychology, your personality, your values, what makes you you, and you understand the unique, challenging problems that you're trying to solve in the world and why they exist, then you can never lose. Right. And so the whole program is bent on helping people rewire their DNA and their mind to start focusing on the things that bring them what they want out of life, instead of focusing on the things that are holding them back, or they hate their job, or they're dealing with oppressive family members. Instead of focusing on the problem, it rewires the brain to be able to see opportunity in everything. And then to start bringing in that success as you take consistent discipline action. But that second video is really kind of the major thesis, which is helping the human understand themselves. Like, even when I've coached businesses, we start with that type of personality psychology, because it's like, if you don't know you don't know your strengths, your weaknesses, this business is only going to be as strong as you are.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think for myself, in my journey, there was a point where when I started to really be self-aware, that's when you start to understand, if you do have negative thoughts that slip into your head, for every negative thought that comes in, I have a positive thought that I replace it with.
Right.
As soon as I see it
Exactly.
sneaking in, I give it a positive mantra, one that I just repeat, about abundance in my life. And like, okay, if I'm starting to think something negative, I hit it right back with I live in total abundance. And I think
Right.
that's where, you got to be powerful in that and not let those negative vibes sneak in. But I
Absolutely.
think, and the other part you're talking about, like the weaknesses and knowing what you're good at. And I always talk about too, like hiring your weakness. I think it's
Absolutely.
important. Yeah. If you know your weakness, to go ahead and hire them. So what other type of works do you do then, as far as like your media company? What have been your biggest struggles with your media company?
Well, the biggest struggle is always time, right?
Hmm.
It's, you start something in 2003 and you expect by 2007 you'll be a billionaire and everybody will love you. But then when you actually start putting in the work, you realize, oh, like when I was doing music, one of the things that I learned from musicians that I never forgot is, 10 years into your music career is the beginning. Like, that was your warm-up reps. Now you're ready to really go and get it in. And so the challenge was always the question of, I'm doing a thing, I'm not seeing the fruit of it to the degree that I want to see it, but I'm doing all the right things. Is how do you keep somebody there and focused, and how do you keep them wanting to play the game? Right? And Gary Vee talks about that a lot too, where it's like, you have to fall in love with the game and not the
Hmm.
outcomes, because you said in the beginning, if you're signing up to be an entrepreneur, or I call it, if you're signing up like me to be a person who's completely unemployable, you're going to get punched in the mouth a lot. And if you don't know how to take those punches and keep pushing forward and keep fighting, then most people are just going to get, beaten to a place where they no longer want to pursue the dream. But
So
discipline and
has
consistency
there
is
ever
always
been,
the most.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say just discipline and consistency is always the most challenging thing because it's like, do you want to keep going? Because you know this thing is the right thing. You know if you keep going, it's going to work. But right now in the present, it's not exactly the way you want it to be.
Can you talk about a time in your life when maybe you were ready to quit, and then for some reason you just deep down you just kept going?
So last year, I was ready to leave social media. Not for any like hyper emotional. Oh, I'm depressed. More, I didn't really need it anymore for the things that I was doing. Like it served a purpose to a degree. But I have my podcast, which is I tell people all the time, TikTok is cute, YouTube's nice, but my podcast is where you need to live. That's where you're going to get the best. Outside of my paid courses, my podcast is the number one place you need to be. So I was sitting with my wife. I was like, do we really need the social media presence anymore? Because we've got an audience, we've got a active audience that we're in contact with in private groups that we've created and on the podcast. Do I still need social media? Um, and I kept pushing forward. And TikTok was actually what kept me in the game because when I hit TikTok and it exploded, you know, not overnight, but it started to pick up a lot of momentum. I was like, okay. But then when I started to see people come in and say, "Oh, you're changing lives, man. Thank you so much." And I got this message from a kid. I think it was the day I was going to start deleting stuff. And it was a kid who had been dealing with brain cancer. He says, "I just want you to know, man, I watch all your videos and it got me through the treatment and I'm going to live. And that's
Wow.
partially due to the work that you do." And I was like, "Oh, snap." Like I gotta have something out there for people to consume because you just don't know sometimes the impact that you're having. So what keeps you in, what's kept me in the game is just the minds and the hearts and souls of people that are like, dude, this is really helpful to me. And but you know, in the interest of full disclosure, I am still getting rid of LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, but we're going to keep some of the other platforms.
You decided even LinkedIn. I feel like LinkedIn's a pretty hot one. Was there a reason why behind LinkedIn you decided to get rid of it?
It's just not. There's no value for me. It's not my style.
Yeah.
Like I have not a single politically correct bone in my body. I don't do corporate speak and propaganda and like, you know, small talk chit chat. And LinkedIn is very much kind of at least from my experience, is the kind of schmoozy, I'm looking for a job. It's just my message and the way I talk just doesn't really fit there necessarily. And I just, you know, I look at numbers too. I look at how much money has Facebook and YouTube made me over the years, you know, in the tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And LinkedIn, you know, frankly, hasn't really connected me with anybody that I wouldn't have connected with. In fact, most of the people I connect with on LinkedIn come from one of the other platforms that I'm on.
Right.
So I just,
You know what?
and it's a time thing. I'm not
Right.
going to have me or my team producing content in a place where we're not having an impact that I think it's like the Jack Welch principle. If we're involved in an industry at GE that's not number one or two in the industry and we don't have any plan or really belief that we can get to one or two, shut it down. Like stop wasting the time and the resources.
I was going to go right there. That's where my question was. Is sometimes addition by subtraction is the way to go, and that's kind of what you're talking about. Is this way you can spend your focus on the platforms that are producing results for you.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get smaller. Like I've always built audiences that are in the tens of thousands, never the hundreds of thousands, kind of like TikTok came out of nowhere. And those more intimate environments suit me better for the things that I like to do. Because I tell people all the time, I'm producing content for the 2%. I don't produce content for the masses because I know only about 2% of humans are actually going to do the stuff that I'm talking about. And so I'm talking to the people who are winners, who are willing to not just put the potential to win, but are willing to put in the work to go out there and actually do it. And it's always a small percentage of the whole. So I'm looking to get smaller and focus on smaller, more intimate audiences that are actually out there trying to make changes in their lives and in the worlds around them versus just trying to make stuff that millions of people, you know, get the kind of dopamine high off of.
How important do you think it is for somebody to have a coach? I've been noticing the more that we've been doing the podcasting, we brought a couple coaches on. I think that the value definitely is there. I think sometimes, when an entrepreneur is getting started and they try and say, okay, here's my checkbook and here's the checks I'm going to write each month. when they try to make that hard decision to pick a coach or to justify spending the dollars on somebody, what can you tell somebody like that? I believe in it. I think you have to have another voice besides yours, maybe somebody who's done it, who's seen the industry that you're in. And I think it's super important. Can you kind of give a talk on that?
Well, just look at the people who play any game at the highest level. So Tom Brady, Beyonce, Chris Hemsworth, right? All of these people have coaches, right? Michael Jordan had a coach, and Phil Jackson never in his life played basketball as well as Michael Jordan. But when you're the guy, and I've heard Jocko Willink talk about this too, when he went from being kind of in the trenches with the SEALs to being the trainer, he's like, you see everything when you're the guy running the training, not the guy getting shot at. And so when you take a Phil Jackson, who certainly couldn't go out on the court and play as well as Mike, he can see things that Mike doesn't see because Mike's in the trenches taking the shots, right? And so having that second set of eyes as kind of your overwatch to make sure that you're squared away, I think could you do it without a coach? Yeah, but if you want to do it faster and more efficiently, then you want to have a coach. Beyonce, guaranteed, has choreography and vocal coaches, right? Tom Brady, he's never not getting coached by somebody at the beach where he's doing those videos of working on his footwork and throwing the ball. So when I see people who play any game at the highest level and they always have someone in their corner that's building them up, like Bill Gates had Warren Buffett. I just show me a person who's killing it that didn't have somebody in their corner. Like even, as much as people hate to talk about Donald Trump, I actually met his mentor at a private conference a couple of years ago and just listened to the things that he tried to help Donald with. And he even predicted some of the stuff that's going on with the presidency. Nobody knows that guy because everyone knows Trump, but
right.
Everybody's got somebody. Everybody that's winning at a high level has somebody in their corner getting them squared away and ready to fight.
And even like talking about Jordan, he didn't just have Phil Jackson. He also had his strength coach, Tim Grover in his corner, who, his content out there, if he has a great book out there too, but just another guy that, he was the mentality of toughness for these athletes. And I think that's the whole thing is you're right. There's more than just having a coach for one thing. You maybe have a coach for a couple different things, but sure. You need to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely. And like Mike even used his players as coaches.
Yeah.
Like Steve Kerr tells the story when he sat on the bench, was trying to help Mike with something. And he said, for that guy to have the humility to listen to me telling him, hey, when you go this way, they're trying to double team you. And he's like, all right, I'll try it. And Mike's philosophy was, even if I think a dude's wrong, I'm going to try it because maybe they see something I don't. And it takes a large chunk of humility. And most people think Mike is not a humble guy because he's a smack talker. It's like, that's his talk. Look at what he's doing. He never leaves the gym. He's always getting advice from, the people that he plays with. So it's, that's the real humility side of it. But yeah, you're 100% right. It's like, I just hired Jordan Peterson to coach me on some stuff recently with a course that he has because, he's the king.
Right. So Michael Jordan, greatest NBA player ever?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. I've got a kid who's 18. He always tells me it's LeBron.
LeBron.
So.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, and I kind of go with what Mike says. He said it's not a good question. He's like, how do you even measure who's the best? He's like, you're looking at stats or rings. Like, how do you actually measure? And then look at my supporting cast versus other people's supporting cast. Like, how do you actually lock down and say, well, this guy was the best guy ever? Because then you got to start talking about Wilt Chamberlain and all these other people.
Sure.
And like guys that didn't make it, like Earl the Goat Manigault. Like, would he have been the best if he didn't have the drug problems and whatnot? You just never know.
And I saw an interesting article lately that was about just the greatest athlete of all time. Is Jordan the greatest athlete of all time? And they had him number one and Brady number two.
Brady.
Which I thought was, and Muhammad Ali was three. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Gretzky was right there too.
Gretzky was. I think
but I guess it wasn't greatest athlete of all time. It was the greatest in their sports.
Got it. I was going to say greatest.
There's
athlete.
A difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think we can argue Tom Brady. I can't think of who's better than. And I guess we'll get to see, is Tom really the truth here this year? Playing with Bruce Arians in a different system. We'll see if he really is the truth.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. Um, I guess I'd rather see Brady win than Belichick win. So,
I I don't disagree.
yeah, right.
And I love Bruce Arians. If I had made the NFL, which was my original dream, I would have killed to play for Bruce Arians.
Yeah, we're Pittsburgh here. We like Bruce Arians when he's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we like Bruce Arians here. Yeah. So how about everything we've been going through with COVID and the pandemic? Can you talk about how you've coached your clients through the pandemic?
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of the people that I talk to, that hasn't come up that much. You know, a lot of us are in agreement that the pandemic, while tragic in some ways because it's hurting people, it's been a blessing in disguise. You know, you look at, I had to start homeschooling my kids, which is something I've always wanted to do. It pushed me to do it. And then
Mm.
to have the benefit of sitting right here in this office teaching my kids, and beauty of homeschooling is I get to teach them real stuff on the whiteboard that school's not going to give them. And then we would go out and do football practice. So the time with our family, the time staying together, I get annoyed by people a lot. So having an excuse not to go places has been great for me. So none of my people directly, um, none of the people that I'm necessarily talking to right now have been directly affected in such a negative way that I've had to coach anybody through it. I do have one of my old soldiers who was laid off because of it, who were trying to help find a job. But other than that, it's just been, you know, all of us are just, you know, doing our thing and making the adjustments as necessary.
And I think every industry is different. I think
Yeah.
you know, I personally think the financial hit, maybe businesses haven't seen it just yet because a lot of
Right.
them are maybe crutched from PPP loans and stuff like that. But I think just the mental aspect of, you know, every time you turn on the news or every time you're on social media, there's something out there about, you know, the numbers spiking, whether you believe it or don't believe it, or wear a mask or don't wear a mask. I think it's just, you know, when you have a business that deals with the public too, a lot of times you're just trying to please everybody. And I guess, you know, I've caught already that you could give two craps about political correctness. I kind
Right.
of appreciate that, you know, but I think, you know, sometimes it's just, it seems like this is another one of those issues where it's just been, I know for me personally, having 5 restaurants, 200 employees, there's just
Yeah. It's
a
heavy. It's
lot that
heavy.
goes into, yeah, to navigating this, you know, and it's not
Absolutely.
all financial. A lot of it's just the mental aspect of it,
The
you know,
human side for sure.
the human side, right? Yeah,
Yeah. And that's
and the
kind of why, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I just said the coaching of it, you know, that
Yeah.
you got people that are really genuinely scared to work through this too. Like, you know,
For
there's
sure.
there's the one side where people, you know, they don't care, they're not going to wear a mask. They think this is, you know, 0.1%, like this is bogus. And then you have people that are like literally scared to go to work. So it's been really
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah. Well,
you
and
know.
the thing I don't fully understand is, you know, places of business have made it mandatory for the most part to wear masks.
Right.
And whether we think it's a hoax or it's the 5G nonsense that you know, some of the conspiracy theorists are talking about, it's, you know, there was once upon a time a no shirt, no shoes, no service policy. Was there a guy that was like, oh, that's infringing on my rights, I'm going into 7-Eleven with just shorts on and no shoes or no shirt? Like, no, they asked you to put clothing on before you come into the place of business. And I think even if you think the mask doesn't do anything, there's some narcissism built into, well, the community has asked you to do a thing,
Mm.
would you just be a deer and throw that on for us, right? And imagine the people who are walking around scared, or like me, I live with someone who's at risk. And so it's the comfort that another human might get because I have on a mask, whether I agree with it or not. I just think that's an empathetic thing to do. You know, like there are times where I do, like when I'm outside working out, I'm not wearing a mask because I'm not around anybody, right?
Right.
So I'm not gonna. And when I go to the gym, I wear my mask to get in, but I take it off once I start working. But if I'm at Target and they've asked me to put on a mask, I don't need to hold a, you know, town hall debate about it. Just put the mask on and live your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're
It's like
absolutely right. Right.
Marcus Aurelius said in his book Meditations, don't busy your mind with trifling things. And I think that's one of the reasons why, going back to the message, like, think, use your mind. Why are you focusing any of your emotional attention on wearing a mask or not wearing a mask? Put a mask on and keep it moving.
Yeah, I think that's good advice in this time, is not to get caught up in
Yeah,
everything that's going on, right? Worry about yourself.
yeah. Or just stay home. Like Amazon will send you everything you could ever ask for.
And stuff you never thought you needed too.
And your rights will never be infringed upon. Just yeah.
Absolutely. So what's the next 6 months look like for you?
Well, right now my whole focus is my primary focus is getting my family into a new house. So
Hmm.
we've been out looking at houses. We've narrowed it down to two spots, a little bit further out from DC than where we live now. So we'll have to make the decision on that and make the jump. As far as producing anything, I pretty much, in the last 2 years have walked away from a lot of the business that I was doing. I got out of the consulting piece and I gave what was left to some of my teammates so they could take it on and still make money doing that stuff. But I've been really, really focused on my family and then producing for my podcast, like full court press podcast. I am hoping that the COVID silliness will have its day in the sun and eventually go away, because we do want to start doing a traveling roadshow where we can do seminars in person with people. Because
Have you
that's
been doing much with Zoom or anything
yeah,
like that?
yeah. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, I have a Zoom coaching call with some of the people in my private coaching program. We have a Zoom call tonight. I'm going to be teaching on basic leadership. So it's my content. My content has really been focused on podcast, and people in my private programs. What can I do to help you? Or any of you struggling? Is there anything going on that we as a community can help you with? And then, kind of the leftovers have been going to TikTok when if I get a wild hair and I want to make a piece of content, I'll make it for TikTok. And I've gotten back into. I don't know if you guys can see here. My one hobby that my doctors told me I had to start doing after all my chronic PTSD diagnosis. Like, you got to get back in the hobby. So my game collecting, I've got a YouTube show called Collector versus Wild that I'm actually editing the next episode in to get that started again. So
Tell
really,
us about that.
so Collector versus Wild is me documenting my mission to collect, play, and discuss every video game in the galaxy. So it's like I'm going to go on this stupidly crazy mission to collect every video game known to man, like, and especially I make it hard on myself. So like NES games like this, I want them complete in the box, which is hard to do without going. And I try not to go to eBay unless I have to. Like, I try, all this stuff was stuff I found out in the wild. All right. And
Very
so
cool.
the show just documents, here's what I've picked up. Like the next episode, for example, is covering this giant Death Stranding collector's edition where I show all the toys that it comes with, and but then we talk a little bit about the game and stuff like that. So that's one of my fun outlets where I just get to enjoy making content, which, believe it or not, is what I started doing in media. When I first started my company, I was doing music and game reviews.
So what's your all-time favorite game?
Oh, Metroid, the original.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's a good one.
I've played some games in recent times where I'm like Nier Automata gave Metroid a run for its money. I'm still debating, like, do I make this number one? Does Metroid lose its throne? But yeah, the original Metroid has always been just that. I go to it every couple of years just to play through it.
Yeah, I'm a Zelda guy. That's the original Zelda
Oh,
is my favorite.
right
Yeah,
on, man. I got that
and same
complete
thing.
in the
Every
box
couple
with the
years, I got to
mirror.
go back at it.
You got it.
Yeah,
So I actually bought that complete in the box. It's off camera, because I want to go back and play it again. I was like, I gotta beat Zelda because I
yeah.
don't know if I ever beat the original. I know I beat part two, the Super Nintendo one.
Okay.
I don't know if I ever beat the original Zelda. So it's like, I got to go back and do this, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff for sure. So, tell everybody where they can find you if they want to get more of you. Give them the rundown here. It sounds like the podcast be where you would like them to be, and then some
Yes.
other places you'd like them to be as well.
So I tell people the podcast is the number one place to be. I'm on every podcasting platform except my publisher and Stitcher are having a challenge. I don't know what that's about, but I'm on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Alexa, Castbox, Podbean, Podcast Love, all of them. And the name of my show is Bryant Chambers Movement. If they don't remember that, just look up my name, Bryant Chambers, and I should come up. That's the number one place to consume content. I'd say number two is TikTok. That's at Bryant Chambers Speaks on TikTok. And then three would be YouTube and Twitch. So on YouTube is where I'll be doing video versions of my podcast as the repository. That's where I do the Collector versus Wild show. And then on Twitch, Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do a live stream playing whatever game that I'm working on. And right now it's, Death Stranding's the one we're
Nice.
working through.
Tell us about Twitch a little bit. I don't know too much about that, to be honest.
So just a all live streaming platform. So think of YouTube, except the live streaming part of it. And the primary focus is video games. So most people are there playing games. They're streaming the game and then talking to their audience. But interestingly enough, what gets watched the most are just people talking head videos. But it's all live. I like it because it's live. I'm much better live than I am like doing a pre-recorded thing. So because people ask me a question from out of left field and I have to adapt to it, and keeping me on my toes kind of keeps me, it makes my content a lot more interesting.
Great. All right. Now it's time we try to solve the equation to Bryant Chambers' success. This is where I ask you 7 rapid fire questions to help us solve the equation. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Best seminar or teaching you've ever been to?
Best seminar or teaching I've ever been to. Does it have to be in person?
No.
Then I'd say every lecture ever made by Jordan Peterson. Hands
Great.
down.
Favorite item you've ever bought under $100?
Ooh, favorite item I've ever bought under $100 would be probably my copy of The Story of Philosophy by Will Durant. It's right up here above my head.
Excellent. Name an idol or a hero of yours that you met in person.
Joel Salatin.
Favorite book you give as a gift?
Managing Oneself.
Something you do every morning before you brush your teeth?
Meditate and get my head into a positive mindset.
Your personal mantra or favorite quote?
The person that knows themselves and knows their enemy will never have to fear the outcome of 100 encounters.
Place you go to decompress and reset?
The woods. I go outside to work out.
Excellent. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that my audience loved you as much as I did, and they'll go and find your show all over the place, and they'll visit you in the near future. Thanks for being on today.
Oh, man, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me, brother. You guys have a great one.